it's time for another Marcus Aurelius Sunset. Marcus reminded himself not to be upset by the misdeeds of others and to correct them if possible. But if they were stubborn and would not change, then to accept it. In reacting to such people, we must never allow ourselves and our own principles to be violated. Moreover, we should never be surprised by the wicked deeds of others and avoid wishing that men are not as they are. Because then we are wishing for the impossible. Because people do bad things out of ignorance of what is good and evil. And we should forgive them for their errors, even when they harm us. This sounds familiar. Marcus stressed that social animals such as humans are meant to live in harmony. He put it this way: bad people and good people all belong to the same body parts. Think of it that way. So if your arm is not doing right and you separate it from the body, it's not good. Good people and bad people are both part of the same universal nature. We're meant to be interconnected, one organism. You couldn't hurt one person without hurting them all, basically, is what he's saying. What injures the hive injures the bee, he says. The best revenge, he said, is not to be like that, meaning when you hurt others, you hurt the group, you hurt yourself. And it's against nature to despise evil people and try to avoid them. When we find ourselves judging others, we ought to consider our own faults first. This sounds really familiar. And then we find that we are less prone to blaming them rather than judge and jury be distributed by others, which sets up for a disappointing and distress. We ought to focus on self-improvement at all times. That's the only thing that needs to be done. It's ridiculous to think for a man not to fly from his own badness when indeed is impossible, but to fly from to help other men get rid of their badness. Think about it. We have a hard enough time getting rid of our own. And so that takes me to the Sermon on the Mount, which I've been reading a lot lately. And Jesus, he opens up the sermon in a grand sort of way and blessings. And the following commandments are not meant to be set to weigh anyone down, but they're meant to give people life who are willing to have such a radical lifestyle. In other words, there's a promise in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is saying. And in the promise, he's saying, those who live like Jesus are the happiest on earth. It sets up all the remaining commandments, not as burdens, but as invitations. So when you're reading something like the Sermon on the Mount or Marcus Aurelius, what they're saying here is there's a better way to live. And that's really what we got to think about is going out and finding a better way to live, improving ourselves, and in doing so, we improve the people around us, and those people will come back to improve our life. It's a circle of living a better lifestyle. And that's what people who are all trying to get the same thing, whether you're trying to do it through the words of Stoics or the words of mindfulness or whatever you call it, it's all the same thing. If we take away the hierarchy of God, the something more than ourselves, something higher than ourselves, then there's no purpose to it all. There has to be something better, something we're striving towards. And that's what we should be learning is what is the better? What is the more complete, the best way to live? I think God has given us probably the best answers in the Sermon on the Mount. So if you have a chance, read it. It's an incredible piece of literature, and I love it.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth.